Okay. Welcome to round two. You probably saw on your seats that we have a feedback form. And I know with these things they're always a little bit more effort, but I'd really appreciate it if you could give us some feedback, really trying to hone what we're doing on your behalf. So any feedback by email or certainly on that sheet would be really appreciated. We have got a lucky door prize. We'll draw that at the end, so just so everybody knows. And Bob has a surprise for you as well. As I touched on earlier, we're delighted to have Bob Robertson from Wellington, New Zealand, testing services manager for excuse me, one of New Zealand's largest government ministries. Bob's had a real journey over the last 9 years, and he's delighted to be here and to share that with us. So, Bob Robertson.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? You can hear me, okay. Well, actually, first of all, I'd just like to thank you guys and Leah for inviting me here to Singapore to share this experience with you. And I understand that actually you're quite a small contingent of the overall audience because this is going to go viral. So a good welcome to our viewers at home. Okay, so this is titled There and Back Again. This is my 9-year journey. There's a reason for the theme There and Back Again, and it'll be interesting to see if you guys can pick up the reasons why you think it's there and back again later on. This is trade technology words. Yes. Okay. So this is what the content is going to comprise of. So I'm going to actually start off by telling you what the real messages are in this presentation. Of course, I couldn't escape without telling you what I do and what the Ministry of Social Development does in New Zealand. I'm going to talk briefly about our history and the current challenges that we face in the testing space. And in order to try and keep you guys awake, there's going to be an interlude. And I'm going to introduce you to Flight 405. And there's a test there for you. And I'll tell you, if you get it right, you get a brown envelope as a prize. Actually, I'll tell you what, I think there's something in here. Yeah, there's some tickets, I think, from Cystic. $50, all right? So I'll give you some pre-warning. So I'm expecting you, this is some audience participation. You will be required to try and test Flight 405 and find the bug. Then I'm going to get back into presentation mode, and I'm going to talk you through the work that we've currently got in flight. And then we'll close, and then I'll give you the opportunity to try and identify where that bug was. Right, as I said, I'm going to start off with the main theme. So what's the message here? What am I trying to tell you guys? So traditional test techniques will always have a place. I was quite surprised by Leah's presentation. I hadn't done any homework, and Leah hadn't shared her presentation with me. And she showed us some new stuff, new innovative ways of gathering some requirements. I'm going to touch on some stuff as well, which complements the presentation that Leah gave. I'm also going to give you a bit of a talk about the ISO 29119 testing standard. Now, some of you may or may not have heard of that, but I'm also going to share with you a bit of a warning that comes with. My journey in the last 9 years has been using traditional manual testing techniques, and now we're embarking on a new regime of automated testing. So I want to talk to you briefly about that as well. But finally, without just being a test manager isn't good enough, because I deal with projects and large programs of work. I deal with resourcing. It's really difficult as a test manager. There's any test managers in the audience? Hands up, test managers in the audience. And attest that actually you need to have time to develop your capability as well. And that's got to be part of any test manager's people strategy. So I'll talk briefly to you about that as well. So that's what this presentation is all about, and these are the messages. Okay, so the Ministry of Social Development, what is it? It's actually probably the largest government department in New Zealand. It's social services. It's actually multiple agencies working under one umbrella. It speaks for itself. So we look after the young and the vulnerable children. We look after beneficiaries, old people. We pay their pensions. We help people get into jobs. We provide income support. And we also have a number of service providers that work on behalf of us to supply services to New Zealanders. We also, if you're a student and you want to apply for a loan, then you come to the Ministry of Social Development. So yes, it touches the lives of more than 1 million New Zealanders, and that's over 110,000 New Zealand families. So to give you some context behind that, New Zealand population is around 4 million. So roughly, it's about a quarter of the population is affected by us. That's us. So as I said, we are multiple agencies. Those are, in fact, every time I sort of present a slide like this, I have to stand back and my goodness, we're absolutely huge. So these are agencies. They all come under the same umbrella. Now, if you can think about having multiple agencies working under one umbrella, can you think about what that means from a technology testing challenge type perspective? Now, some of these agencies weren't actually part of the ministry. They were formed. They were migrated into the Ministry of Social Development. So they had their own architecture, their infrastructure. So can you think of some of the technical challenges there might be when you're joining up agencies like this? So, large and complex, our systems. Highly integrated across multiple technologies and platforms. So, different tin, different wire, different plumbing. And we do big stuff. I mean, in the last month, we have just gone live with our with a total welfare reform program. It was completely overhauled, and it's taken just about 3 years to do that. So that equates to 132 person years of testing. So if you think about that in terms of context, that's pretty huge. That's a huge investment of testing time. And we actually haven't had any fallout from that. It affected multiple systems. And we adopt like a program model of work, so we dedicate teams, entire teams. We co-locate to serve projects, so the teams are all working together on like projects. And also to help deliver that, initially there's in 3 phases. Phase 1 had a high level of manual testing. Phase 2 had a high level of manual testing, but with a lot of automation. And then phase 3 took all the automation from phase 1 and 2, and we used a lot of that huge amount of automation in phase 3 with, of course, some manual testing. So we've used traditional requirements gathering techniques for both our functional and our non-functional requirements. So any performance testers in the audience today? The non-functional testers? Okay, so by non-functional I'm talking about not just the application performance, I'm also talking about information security. Very, very big focus for us, for all government departments at the moment, and also it's probably quite a big focus for a lot of organisations that are dealing with web technologies such as finance organisations, banks, etc. So security testing is now becoming to the fore as well. Well, that word Tosca's there again. I'm surrounded by Tosca here and there. I actually don't have a problem in putting Tosca on the board. It's a great product, fantastic product. We've also got Quick Test Professional as one of our tools of choice for automation. But I won't be using QTP for much longer. I'll be giving it until January 2015 before I'm hoping that we would have completely transformed all of our automation assets into Tosca assets. Nearload is our performance testing tool. And if you're interested in looking in load and performance testing, I would thoroughly recommend you take a good look at Neoload. And there's a whole plethora of freeware tools out there as well, which people use, the Seleniums, the Squirrel, the Cucumbers, and so on. In terms of our automation, one of the biggest opportunities is the environments and the sanity checks. So, biggest pain point for a lot of testing organisations is the standing of environments, making sure that they're fit for testing purpose, making sure that you've got the right data in there, to make sure that the data is anonymised as well. We want to use Tosca to try and automate some of this stuff. In terms of the challenges that we're currently faced, government is saying now it wants to transact digitally between other government agencies. So that's MSD talking to the likes of the health district boards, Inland Revenue, Housing New Zealand as well. So we're not trying to form a huge government department. The idea is that government departments will perform their function, but we want to be slicker about it. We want to be able to do this cross-government, and we want to do it ideally when you have got the client, if you like, seated behind you or in front of you, and you can deliver cross-government services. Now, to some degree, we've done that, but it's not yet complete. Mobility is one of the biggest things that students especially, everyone now wants to transact with the government. So they want to dial up their account number. They'll want to see how much they're going to be paid this week in terms of their benefit. They want to know, has their student loan been approved? All these sorts of things, and mobility is with us. We can't stay here. Predictive and adaptive development methods. So before, going back 9 years, requirements were pretty much understood. We knew the environment we were working in. We knew, with a high degree of predictability, when we developed software, we knew exactly what the software was going to look like. So we've changed. It's gone through a paradigm shift in the last 9 years. And that's not just me. You guys have probably been through it as well. So now we're moving to more adaptive methods of software development. So that means shifting left. It means getting requirements early, but you're testing the requirements earlier. You're developing in sprints now. You're doing in development cycles, and you're adapting the software once you've refined your requirements. Requirements haven't been fully defined, so you can't predict what the eventual product's going to look like. I'm not sure if it's the same in your game, but certainly a lot of it's now occurring in my area. Okay, so what are we doing? So we're looking at the way we gather requirements. I want to talk to you about adopting good practice as opposed to best practice or industry practice. Best practice is what you make of it, and that I'm referring to ISO 29119. It's important also that I think everyone should undertake their own maturity assessment. I'll be touching on that later on. And actually, we're using the best and most affordable technology to help us get to where I want to be. And I'll talk about this about Tosca. As also, if you've got targets in mind, you might want to think about actually creating a strategy to help you get there. And I'll give you a clue as to how to do that. And I spoke briefly about test capability management earlier, so I'll come back to that later on. But I think now we've got a break. So this is a test, okay? All you've got to do is really simple, all right? You're testers. All you've got to do is just tell me where the bug is.
Shaping up to be a rough commute out there today. Watch for an accident on the 101 near Sherman Way. And we're just getting word that the 405 southbound has been shut down completely. Looks like some sort of police activities got it cleared for a 2-mile stretch from the 118 all the way up to Victory. As soon as we get more information, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, we'll get you really better forecast of your favorite hits on KTTV.
Show of hands then, who's found it? Come on. Oh, you can hold that thought. You can hold that thought. Anybody else? Alright, now I'll a bit of a clue. Come back to that. Oh, now you got me again. Right, so I gave you a whole list of things that we're doing now. A lot of these things really should be second nature to testers, but also they should be first nature to the likes of the business analyst or the systems analyst. So it'd be really good if we could try and encourage them to come up with use case diagrams. But I mentioned earlier that one of the other problems that we're faced at the moment is with regards to information security. So it's not just good enough to come up with happy paths and this is what the system should do. You've also got to now start thinking a little bit differently and outside the square and saying, well, what can go wrong? Misuse cases. So you've now got a different way of viewing something. So this is what the system should be doing, but think of now all the other ways that a person can actually infiltrate or break down the security. And I think this is where Leah's mind map could actually lend some assistance in determining potentially areas of vulnerability. Okay, here's another. No, I'm not taking any credit for this. I don't have any problem with plagiarism, providing I reference my work, and I reference all of my work. Paul Leong from the National Australia Bank. So what he's got, he didn't design this actually. I think he used it and he showed it at a conference. But hands up, if you've seen the quality heat map, do you know what I'm talking about in terms of quality heat map? We're just about to see. I see no show of hands, so you've obviously never heard of it, which is okay. This actually complements what Leah presented in terms of page 5, quality criteria categories. You will be able to make the connection immediately. So here are some quality factors. So what Leah's got is capability, reliability, usability, charisma, security, scope, blah, blah. Here we've got ambiguity, testability, fit for purpose, correctness, cross-documentation, match, and completeness. Okay, so, well, how do you know that what you've got is a reasonable quality? Is it fit for purpose, for your purpose, okay? So what you've got to do is you've got to put some quality factors on the left-hand side, put all those quality factors in, and then you give them a weighting, and then you score. Really quite straightforward. And the weighted score, he's actually he divided this table into two areas of clarity and accuracy. You mustn't touch that. You mustn't touch that. But this is what they used. You can't see that, but you'll get copies of all this stuff. So for ambiguity, testability, fit for purpose, or for capability, reliability, usability, charisma, there are 5 scores potentially, and I'll just take the first one there. So ambiguity, if the score is 1, which is what you're able, ideally what the person who is designing the requirements for. Statements are clear, succinct, and leaves no room for misinterpretation. Wow, isn't that good? Whereas a score of 5 is statements are confused, convoluted, and contradictory, very high risk of misinterpretation. Really straightforward stuff. So when you go through and you assess your requirements against the quality factors there, you feed them into a table, and then you produce your quality heat map. So you saw back here, 3 and 5, the weighted score for this example. 3 and 5, look at you've got a big nicely across the skull lines there. Extremely poor quality function, bin it and start again. Very basic, very easy to use, complements what Leah's done here. Okay? Easy stuff. How many of you have heard of, just show of hands, ISO 29119? Leah? Yeah, 2. Okay. International Standards Organisation, that's what it stands for. Fantastic. It's really good to see that now there is a set of processes and standards that have been developed and now recognised internationally. It's well overdue. Divided into 3 areas: the organisational level, test management, and also test processes. Now, I believe that the organisational test processes and the test management processes are fully developed. Last time I spoke to Matt Mance at the Department of Internal Affairs, there was still some work to do on dynamic test processes. It's $100, I think, to download and subscribe to ISO. It's very affordable for any organisation. However, you've got to be careful how you use it. So this is the health warning. How many of you are ITIL organisations? Okay, not many of you. So ITIL's in IT Infrastructure Library. Another set of standards. COBIT. Anybody adhere to COBIT? No show of hands. Okay, it doesn't surprise me. Another set of standards. So you can have standards for Africa. You can read lots and lots of material. You can produce lots and lots of material because it's all to standard. At the end of the day, you can deliver absolutely nothing. But you've read all this material and you've written all these test plans and these strategies and stuff, but you've delivered nothing because you spent too long reading and writing. So what you've got to do, standards are great, I'm not knocking the standard, is pick what works for you. All right, so this is where we are. One recommendation. If you're going to take anything away from this, take this. Get yourself organised and create an organisational test policy. Your test policy is probably your most important artefact that you can produce as a business unit. And the reason why it's one of the most important areas that you can develop in is because it gets sponsorship at the top table. Having a test policy means we, as the organisation, agree with this. This is how it will be done. Your test policy is 2 or 3 pages at most. This is what you do, how you do it, and also when things are going to be done. It's an organisational policy. It's the policy of the organisation. Ours is in draft at the moment. We don't have an organisational test strategy because I can't see any reason why we should have one. You guys might think differently. If you're in a large multinational organisation, you might need to have an organisational test policy because you're dealing with multiple countries. In terms of test management processes, well, we've got good planning, monitoring, and we've got some controls in place and reporting. We don't really see any need to do any more than we're doing already. We have some dynamic processes that we adhere to, adhere being a loose word. But we've got good design, good environment requirements, and we do good test execution and good test management reporting. But we've taken some of the good stuff out of ISO 29119 and for the templates. Use them, they're free, it doesn't cost you anything at all. And I've spoken to you about, the health warning is doing all that work in terms of reading and writing, but actually producing next to nothing. Just be very careful that it's not a means to the end. Okay, maturity self-assessments. We've gone through 2 that were paid for, and we've just done 1 ourselves. It pays to look at yourself and think, where do we fit on the scale of things? So we went through, there was like myself and my test managers, we got together and we brainstormed. In an hour, we came up with this. So on the left-hand side is our alignment to ISO 29119. I'm not too concerned about that. But underneath, it's our maturity of use. Now, can you see a problem here? Does anyone see, ignore this bit here, what these are saying, just concentrate on the maturity of use. Can you see an issue there? Has anyone spotted the problem? Does anyone want to hazard a guess? Well, no, there's nothing. There's nothing about what, sorry?
On your x-axis.
Well, not a great deal, is there? It's all on this side. It's all on this side. What we've said is this is where we think we currently are positioned for these things. This is where we aim to be in 1 or 2 years' time. There's years. I think with a high degree of accuracy, I can predict that in 2 years' time, I'll be much the same again. Why? I was reading, whilst we were preparing for this, I sat down and had a glass of water and I picked up a newspaper. This is today, unfortunately I can't reference this because I had no time. This is today's International Herald Tribune, coincidentally talking about the new iPhone 5, whatever it is that's coming out next week. And there's a startling statement by this guy called Joseph Schumpeter. He made this statement, he coined a phrase in 1942, which reflects exactly what's going on here. Okay, call it creative destruction. This is the term, creative, isn't it lovely? Creative destruction. So the economist Joseph Schumpeter coined the phrase creative destruction in 1942 to describe the less than tidy way free markets lead to progress the telephone. Oh, sorry, lead to progress, there's a full stop here, I better read it, sorry. The telephone replaced the telegraph. The cell phone replaced the telephone. The smartphone is replacing the cell phone, and so on. Something gets destroyed and something new and exciting is built on top of it. So what is going on here is, this is where we currently are positioned. In 2 years' time, a lot of change has occurred in our organisations. We've introduced mobility. We've moved from a different web services platform to a new web services platform, which means we've got to retest all of our applications. No, not just retest. We've got to think about how we test these new applications. New protocols have come out. There's new hardware. We have to do some hardware testing. New security vulnerabilities. It's never ending. So what we have to do here is adapt what we've developed just to try and keep pace with the change. That's what it is. I'm never going to progress faster. That's a dream. I'm never going to get there. Don't take offence if you do your own assessment. Don't take umbrage. Don't accuse anybody. If it's like this, it's perfectly okay. But it's also good to see where you'd like to be. Because there are some, at least it starts the thought process is working, yeah? All right. Tosca. I cannot do a presentation like this with an audience like this without talking about Tosca. The one big reason why we moved, moving from where we are and into the Tosca space is purely because of its independence to use the tool and the underlying technology. They're independent. Testers don't have to care whether they are talking to a web service or green screen application. They don't have to understand what the underlying protocols are or the technologies that link everything together. Tosca does that, knows about it. So we've put a plan in place, but I'll just reflect on something I said earlier on to some individuals. That I sent my entire team. We've got I've got a team of 23, plus we've got a whole bunch of, I've got a big team, massive team. We've had two foundation courses. Team 1 went in, came back, no problems at all. Team 2 went in, came back, no problems at all. The difference between the two teams is I've got some very experienced technical testers in one team, and I have got some very experienced, let's say, more mature, very experienced, highly experienced application testers in another. These are people that work for us, who have worked for us in the front line, using our applications on a day-to-day basis. So we invest heavily in getting the right people for the right job. So you could call them user acceptance testers, but they progress beyond that. And when I walked up to a couple of people when they completed the course, how did you find the course? Brilliant! Can't wait. Right, give me access rights now, admin access rights so I can install Tosca and get it up and running. So the enthusiasm was there. It's great for people retention. It turns people on. And it works. It makes their jobs more enjoyable. Who loves testing? Come on. Actually, I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. It's boring, repetitive. You've got tools to help you. So look, we're targeting doing some work in the area of the sanity checks and also, of course, the regression testing. But please, second thing you're going to walk away from here is, in fact, there's a load more things you will hopefully walk away from, but if you can bear with me, in terms of putting Tosca in or any automation tool of your choice, have a strategy behind it. Make sure you know where you currently are, right? Where you want to be, and what you've got to do to get there. It's just one piece of paper. It will take you less than an hour to put together. Leah's very experienced in drawing boxes and arrows. You could use the Xmine application to do this. This was done, one of my guys did this in Excel, because it comes with arrows and boxes and stuff. So where are we now? Where we want to be, and what are you going to do? But keep it to an A3. A3s are the way government ministers, how we communicate to ministers and stuff. It's filtered down. But the A3 is a great communication tool. That's something you can do. And you can do it by yourself. It won't take forever. So I spoke about test capability management, and the fact is that as test managers, what we're doing is we're resourcing projects, organising environments, we're handshaking with the business, we're building relationships. At the same time, we want to try and build a test practice. We want to gain some maturity in that space as well. But more than maturity, we want capability. We want good people. People are crucial to any organisation. They're your biggest asset. So I've actually I've onboarded a test capability manager. Fiona's job, her only job, is to build the capability for my test practice. It's actually quite a huge ask. She's already organised these Tosca courses. Already I've got some very, very satisfied staff. So she's also developing some of these processes. I mean, she did that maturity matrix. Simple stuff. It's stuff that I don't actually have the time for. But if you can get one person, if you're a test manager, don't allocate it to somebody who's already busy doing some analysis work or some engineering work or other sort of work. Just make this a dedicated task. Or at least second that person into a position to say, for the next 3 months, you're doing nothing but concentrating on test capability. Make it a dedicated task and give them a shopping list. What do you want out of it? So you want to retain your staff, so what retention plans are you going to put in place? Development. People like to be developed. People like to be recognised as well. What processes have you got? Undertake some process reviews. But low-hanging fruit. Don't go overboard. Okay, I'm near the end. You'll be pleased to know. Right, so there you go. Takeaways, 5 things. Do your own test maturity assessment and keep doing it. Good practice as compared to industry and best practice. I don't like that word, best practice. You can point that. It's what you believe is the best for your organisation. And do look at 29119. It's got some stuff in it, but also beware, it's not a means in itself to the end. Develop your own strategies. That A3, where you are, Where you want to be, what have you got to do to get there applies to anything. That was my automation strategy. It could be anything else. Holidays. This is where you are, this is where you want to go, this is how I'm going to get there. Just those 3 columns are all you're going to need. Employee test capability manager. Right. Now, we've had one, you said something earlier on about, we're going to do the bug hunt now. So what was your answer?
Speedometer.
The speedometer on the car. Yeah.
It's exceeding the maximum limit.
So you saw the speedometer on the car exceeding its. Well, you've got a plane on top of you, and it's got its engines going full thrust pretty much, and 120 miles an hour. I mean, the car. But you're on the right track. Has anybody else got any ideas? There's a hand. Sorry?
What was the test cases? What are we testing?
Oh, you want requirements?
Where's the context? Like, are we testing the aircraft, or are we testing the car, or the traffic?
So what you were doing was you were looking at 405, the movie, and I just asked you to find the bug. So that's the only context I gave you. So I'm not going to give you any requirements for this. There's another hand.
It's the human ignoring it's a human element, it's the bug.
No, it's not the human.
There was a speed board, maximum speed limit board, and it was not put much before the where the runway begins, so there was not enough time for the driver to actually.
No, no one here.
I'm not sure whether I remember correctly. But
Oh, you've seen the movie, you're out there, you can't see
no,
it.
I've not seen the movie yet, to be honest. But in this one, wasn't it 3 out of 2 miles of the street? And if I just calculate the time, how long it took to stop the plane
Yeah.
with the speed that the plane usually lands,
Yeah.
it will accelerate the freed up highway.
Okay. Look, you're all in suspenders here. I know you really. Oh, another hand. Oh, another hand over there. Oh, what do you reckon?
Just to guess, maybe to avoid the accident, the driver need not have speeded up. He could have speeded down and gone down the.
You could have speeded down.
He could have speeded down before the plane landed.
Okay. When I showed very good. When I showed this movie to my boss and in the CIO office, and I got to this bit here, and where's that bug? It's stupid, she said. All you had to do was pull over or stop. So, I mean, but that's not a bug. I mean, that's psychology playing a role there. Your instinct is fight or flight. When you get chased, people actually, they would prefer to run. And they're thinking they're running away, but of course they're not because the gap is closing. That's psychology playing a role there. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a bug. Anybody else? Okay, one more. Oh, okay. You're the last one. What do you reckon? Hang on. Let me get the microphone because people can't hear. We all have time? This is good. Well, we go.
There's a speed limit written as 65 on a runway, which cannot be the case because it's an airplane runway. There's a speed limit board written over there.
Yeah. I mean, he did exceed the speed limit, I can tell you that. But
The limit is really low for a runway. It's wrongly exceeded.
Oh, okay. It's not a runway, it's a motorway. Right. Okay, and right, lucky last. All right, lucky last. All right.
The wheels were not.
No, you're wrong.
There is no mirror in the car.
No, you're wrong too. Right. Okay. Okay. I spotted it. Right, there it is. Start of observation 25368 with the needle going right round here. Okay. End of observation, as you slow it down, 25368. However, as test analysts, we have to really examine this and we've got to do our research. These are screen dumps of the progress through the movie. There's a little pointer there, which see where he is, versus the little pointer over here. So that's the gap, roughly. Okay. All right. So we use arithmetic. We use arithmetic. Right. So I've been generous. So I said he's been doing 120 miles an hour at 1 minute 22 seconds into the clip. That's how much he was doing. All right. That's actually 53, just over 53 minutes per second. So, but the distance or the elapsed time between the two clips was actually 49.2 seconds, which equals a distance travelled of 2.6 kilometres, which means that those numbers cannot be the same.
You must have broken
What? No!
There was accident.
The filmmakers didn't do anything with it. Anyway, right, there's a whole bunch of references here of material that I referred throughout this presentation. So that's me. Now you can go up, or you can ask me some questions. It's up to you. What do you want to do?
Who was closest to the best
Oh!
answer?
Who was closest? Ah, you were. Yes, I think you were. Yes, you were. Yeah, you were. You were closest. There you go. You're welcome. Any questions from anybody? Did I get the right envelope? Probably not. Are they both the same?
I know
You've either just got the envelope or I've got the concept.
I know where it goes. Any questions? I'm mindful we're running slightly over time, so thank you very much. Any questions at this stage?
Your organisational policy,
Yes.
who do you intend to sign off on it and why?
Well, I'm very fortunate because I report at the same level as the CIO. Actually, all of the test managers here, do you report to the equivalent of CIOs? No? So I'm very fortunate. So David Havishon, who's my manager, will be signing us off. He's Chief Information Officer. He's very much a proponent of what we do in the ministry. And the reasons why is because my colleagues then will understand around the table that the CIO has endorsed this, and if we've got a policy, then the policy must be adhered to. There is no escape. No, you can't go outside and farm out your testing to another organisation. You will use IT testing services. It's a good thing. There's the only one thing I really want to do at the moment. I've got it, and I need to review it, and I need to refine it. It doesn't give you what I want at the moment.
And why the CIO?
Why the CIO, and why not? Who do you believe should be? Do you want me to take it to the chief executive? Actually, that could be another thing. However, the chief executive looks after all of those little boxes that you saw earlier on. IT is a function across all of those boxes, but he's not necessarily responsible for it. That's the function of the IT department. So it's the head of IT that needs to sign this off. And we develop our stuff in-house. We also use other parties to develop stuff for us as well, which also means that those other parties have to comply with our test policy. It's specific to testing. The organisation doesn't care. All they want is a system that works at the end of the day. Sure, my CE will probably take some time and ponder over it and sign it off, but I don't think it's going to have much value when it comes down to people within IT. IT will listen to the CIO, because the Chief Information Officer is the top boss in IT.
What is the reason?
Thanks. You said the test policy should be 2 to 3 pages. So it still took you around 9 years to get to a draft.
I know.
What is the reason?
I know. Well, because 29119's only been out for about 2 months.
It's just because of the 291.
Absolutely, it's 29119 that's prompted me.
The only reason why you do a test policy?
I haven't had the time to consider a test policy. I've been too busy working with programs and projects and resourcing and making sure all the team's in place. Honestly, it's been a bit of a nightmare. Having the test capability person on board, she's now pretty much in bed with 29119 and just prizing out all the good stuff that we need to do. And then one of the first things I saw, organisational testing. That looks good. What's that about? And it's good. Read the stuff, download it, read it, and you might make some good use of some of the material. Yeah.
Bob, you showed the requirements metrics measurement.
Yes, the heat map.
The heat map, yeah. What do you do with that? Who do you report that back to, and how do they respond
I've
to
got
it?
a very good relationship with a lot of my IT colleagues around the table. But the idea will be that document, the results of the analysis, will be put back in the hands of the business analysts or the systems analysts. Because actually, it's a joint exercise. It's not something that testing does in isolation. The result of that quality heat map will be through workshops and walkthroughs, structured walkthroughs of the requirements, and it's going to be a joint effort. So at the same time, you've got hopefully your systems analysts presenting use and misuse cases to show you the flow of information, how the system is supposed to be used from a user's perspective, but also then you have got the quality of the documentation that supports those processes that's being supplied as well. So why not in the same session, the workshops, why not document all those? And also advertise the fact, hey, you're scoring these requirements based on these quality factors. You get agreement, you produce your first draft, and then you get it back to the BA. And they go back to, not the drawing board, but they'll go through a refinement process.
And have you seen the quality of the requirements improve because of that?
Well, yeah, I have actually. Yeah, we've used it a couple of times, and the requirements have improved. We've actually managed to write decent test cases. Yeah, it's a free object. Use it. Oh, sorry. You're next.
Yeah, you showed the A3 actually, wherein like you showed three different columns.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you put any measurement criteria on there and say that okay, we are going to review it after like 3 months?
Look, for sure. I mean, you've got to. You're making statements. That's all they are. You're making statements. So I said to my team and managers, I want an automation strategy. I want to time box the activities. I don't know what that time means yet. And in fact, I do now, because I've said in a year, I want so many items to be achieved. So first of all, you draft out where you're currently positioned, where you want to be, and what you've got to do to get there. But you've got to go through a prioritisation exercise. So what starts off as a hash list needs to be put into an order. So low-hanging fruit first, small time box, because it proves something. You've got a delivery. You've managed to deliver something. You're all delivery focused, yeah? You've got to deliver stuff. Testing has a purpose. So do small stuff and take small steps, because you can't boil the ocean. You know what I mean? This guy over here was back there.
The heat map, how is it different from a risk matrix?
It's not really, it's just easy to use.
It's like, basically it does look like...
They're the same principles. They're the same principles. Yeah? I mean, it's a quadrant that's got, red in the top right and green in the bottom left. It's a quadrant, both of them are quadrants. A risk matrix reports risks against appetite. Yeah? The risk matrix reports quality of requirements. You can use that sort of heat map for anything you like. Anything. So there's no difference between the two. It's the same tool, but used for different purposes. Yeah? It's boring, Heckler's Corner.
With your automation,
yeah.
Are there any technologies you don't think you'll use with Tosca?
We probably won't use mainframe technologies, because we recently migrated I say recently, 2 years ago, we migrated our biggest payment system off of a mainframe into using web. I think all the others are current. I can't think of anything, and I don't know. The problem is I don't know what's around the corner. But one thing I am confident of, whatever there is around the corner, whatever new technology is around the corner, I'm highly confident that Tosca's going to be able to steer it. And that was one of the reasons why I purchased it. Are we done?
Lucky last. Okay, one more on the front.
You mentioned about automation not being successful, something like that in your slide. Initially, there was one point of automation, a negative point in your presentation.
Okay, so I don't want to knock the competition as such. It's not my place to do that, but I'll tell you the true stories. Automation has been one of my biggest pain points to date in terms of I need specialist people to design and run automation tests. I need a lot of time to maintain the test assets. And one of the main reasons why automation is shelfware, well, a lot of automation assets remain shelfware, is because there's no investment of time to maintain them. Now, Tosca is in a different ballgame to other test automation tools. It knows, hey, you're testing, to coin a phrase, 3.9 against 4.1. You actually drove this product and automated tests against 3.9. You're trying to test it against 4.1. It knows the differences. It won't correct them for you, but it will highlight them a lot quicker. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a developer to correct it. You can correct them in a matter of minutes. It's a far more efficient tool to use. It's just because it's efficient. That's the reason why. So I'm looking to get some great gains out of it. If I was to be back here this time next year, I'll have a different story to tell. No, a good story, different from what I'm saying now, but I'm not that mature yet. You saw my automation plan. I'd love to report back on how well I did, because I've given them a year. Wouldn't that be a good story to tell? This is what we started with. This was our plan. This is what we did. This is where we are now. I'd love to be able to tell you a really, really good success story, and I know I've got the support to help me get there.
How long do you have used the tool, Tosca?
We bought a couple of licenses, we did our own proof of concept, which took forever. Too long. We probably had it over a year, I think.
And any ROI
I've got a proven ROI, which I'm more than happy to talk about afterwards. Right, if there aren't any more questions, I'll wish you a good evening, and I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak, so thank you.
Fabulous. Now we have, I think, one point of order, and that's the Lucky Door Prize. Right. Do you want to give us a hand with that? It's the similar tickets, I think. You go. All right, can we drum roll somebody, please? Some anticipation. Just not you. Here we go.
Krishna Jain.
Sit on you. Yeah, well done. So that concludes the evening. If you could, if I could just ask you to fill in the feedback form just very briefly, and grab a coffee or grab some pastries, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event in a couple of months. Thanks so much.